Good afternoon. I hope that everyone enjoyed lunch and got a copy of Teresa's book signed. And if you did not, Teresa will be here for the rest of the afternoon, so please find her during one of the breaks, and she will get a copy of the book signed for you as well. Of course, we are going to hear from Teresa very shortly, her keynote address. I would like to invite to the stage the president and CEO of Prairie Meadows, who, through the Community Betterment Grant, supported this event, and we are very thankful for the generous sponsorship, and this is the second investment into the Symposium in Des Moines, and goes a long way to producing the event and bringing the speakers that you get to hear from today. So Brian Orilko, please.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I am excited to be here. My name is Brian Orilko. I'm the president and CEO of Prairie Meadows. It's a privilege to support the Harkin Institute for Public Policy and Citizen Engagement and to join you today for the 2026 Harkin Retirement Security Symposium. Over the years, Prairie Meadows has contributed more than $245,000 to support the work of the Harkin Institute, and we're proud to be part of the impact they're making. Thank you. As a nonprofit, we're one of 2 nonprofit casinos in the country. We've reinvested more than $2.4 billion back into Iowa through taxes and charitable contributions, supporting initiatives just like this that bring people together to tackle important challenges and move our communities forward. So thank you again for that opportunity. We're grateful to be a part of this event today. So now, it's my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, Dr. Teresa Ghilarducci. Dr. Ghilarducci is a nationally recognized labor economist and one of the leading voices in the country on retirement security and labor markets. She serves as the Bernard and Irene Schwartz Chair of Economic Policy Analysis at the New School for Social Research and directs the Schwartz Center for Economic Policy Analysis. She is the author of Work, Retire, Repeat, The Uncertainty of Retirement in the New Economy, along with several other influential books on pensions, work, and economic security. She is also the architect of Guaranteed Retirement Accounts, a bold proposal to strengthen the U.S. retirement system and expand access to secure savings. During the 2008 financial crisis, the New York Times Magazine recognized this idea as one of the best of the year. Dr. Ghilarducci has also served as a federally appointed trustee for major retiree health care trusts, including for the United Auto Workers and Goodyear, and has been appointed to public pension boards for both the state and national level. She earned her PhD in economics from the University of Cal Berkeley and spent 25 years teaching at the University of Notre Dame. Today, she'll speak on strengthening retirement security, the role of public-private partnerships. So please join me in giving a warm welcome to Dr. Teresa Ghilarducci.
Oh, what a warm welcome. Thanks so much for inviting me. I am very, very honored to be here with Senator Harkin and the institute that he has built, and I can see it growing, just like that little picture of it. It's really, really growing. So around Christmas in 2022, a businessman in Cumberland, Maryland was shopping at Walmart, and he was really alarmed at the 82-year-old clerk who was serving him. He was just quite alarmed by how hard it was for this cashier to take his money and do his work. And so he asked this Warren Marion, he turned out to be a veteran, why he wasn't retired, why he was still working. And Mr. Marion said, well, I don't have enough pension. So this energetic businessman, he started a GoFundMe campaign, and he raised more than $100,000 for this guy, and Marion did retire. This businessman had seen on social media that this had been done for other people. Ironically, he had just seen another 82-year-old Walmart cashier whose customers raised money for her, and she got to retire. Marion said that the money would let him pay off his house and that he could go to Florida once a year and visit his children. A year later, the news reported that a group of high school students in Texas had raised $80,000 for their janitor whose rent had just gone up and he had to come back to work in the school district at 80 years old. They raised money for him and he got to retire. Now these stories are heartwarming and they're treated as that in the news and they are heartwarming. But from a policy perspective, they're absolutely chilling. A retirement system in a country like ours should not depend upon 30 million crowdfunding events. I want to make one central value statement today and one central technical statement today. The first one is the value statement. People should be able to retire with dignity after a lifetime of work. And two, the U.S. retirement crisis is not a failure of individual behavior. It is a failure of institutional design. Here is what we told people 40 years ago when our do-it-yourself system started. The 401ks came on the scene, unions and their defined benefit plans retreated. Congress really favored the individual commercial self-directed account. There was a lot of work from Congress to really promote this system. And so we told people, it's easy to save for your retirement. You save 10 to 15% of your paycheck, every paycheck, and if you start early as a young person, it's even better. You never withdraw. All the models say you don't withdraw. Don't get divorced, don't get laid off, don't get sick, don't have a child, et cetera, et cetera. Remember this withdrawal issue. It's what Senator Harkin said today. Withdrawing from your 401k is an institutional choice. It's a choice employers, people, and Congress had made. 3, invest on an efficient frontier. You accumulate your money. You have to figure out what an efficient frontier is, but go ask your finance professor. But invest wisely. 4, maybe you should work until you're 70, and that takes finding an employer who will value an older worker. And finally, spend down your assets so you don't run out of money before you die, which, as Jeff Brown said, William Sharp, the Nobel Prize winner, said, is the nastiest problem in finance. So the 40-year-old experiment that we've had with do-it-yourself pensions has been about as successful as do-it-yourself dentistry. It was painful and it's botched. Over 40% of middle-class workers about ready to retire will be poor or near poor retirees. It's downwardly mobile for them. The median retirement account is, what's the median account? We're all professionals. That's what 50% have? It's 0. It's 0. Most people approaching retire have nothing or very, very much next to nothing. And even among the lucky people who have accounts, the median account is only $130,000. The typical worker is told to have about 7 to 8 times that amount. Now, the main cause for this shortfall is we don't have institutions that help most people accumulate, invest, and deaccumulate. Over half of workers don't even have a workplace retirement plan. Senator Harkin had mentioned that. It's in the reports from the Harkin Institute. That 50% coverage rate has actually been persistent over the past 40 years. And in fact, every system that has a voluntary aspect to it, you usually get to that 50% ceiling. Meanwhile, the nation, taxpayers, have not been unaware that people need help with their retirement. We spend $400 billion a year in tax subsidies to incent people to save for retirement. They don't do it, so we pour in more money. They don't do it, so we pour in more money. But the problem is, most of that money goes to people who would have saved anyway. And according to an MIT and Vanguard study that just came out, most employer contributions go to people who need it the least. That's over $226 billion from employer contributions, and 20% of the earners, the 20% of the bottom earners just get 6% of that. Now, financial education in helping people accumulate more is important, just like caring about that Walmart greeter is important, but it's not critical to the solution. It's not going to solve the solution. There's a byproduct of financial education in the do-it-yourself system, and it's a byproduct that we need more research about, but I think all of you know the answer, that in a do-it-yourself system, failure brings on shame. So when people get to retirement, and they were told 40 years ago, don't take it out, save more, you have someone who doesn't have enough money filled with regret and shame. And that has an effect on morbidity and well-being, and it is a byproduct of our system. So this is not a people failure, it's a system failure. Our pension system fails to do what pension systems are supposed to do. We're supposed to help people. There's three things, if you're taking notes. One, help people accumulate, help them invest well the money that they've accumulated, and distribute that money so it lasts their whole life. First, coverage. Without coverage, you can't accumulate. So that would be my first slide that I can advance myself. Okay. Oh, well, all that first slide says is that half the workforce doesn't have a pension plan. I have 53.7 million. That's not precise, but I've footnoted everything I say here. In one study, it's 53.7%. It's probably a lot more when you count people who come in and out of the labor market. And it certainly doesn't count all the people. There are many people that will come to retirement that would be more than half the workforce, but it's the point that any point in time, you have half the people not contributing. It's not just Uber drivers, it's not just gig workers, it's a lot of W-2 people don't have money. People in the top 10% of earnings, 10% of them have nothing when they approach retirement except Social Security. But this is concentrated in the bottom half of the workforce. 79% of people in the bottom half, not just the bottom 10%, the bottom half, lack access to a plan, compared with 18% in the top 20%. But still, 18% in the top 20% is not full coverage. The workers least able to save on their own are the least likely to have a payroll deduction, easy way to save their money. Now, one solution for that has been the state plans that the Harkin Institute has just released a report on. It's their March report on these state plans. And with AARP and with my other experts, I've been working for these state plans for over 20 years. The first one was in California, and I spoke at Berkeley about them. There's about 24 states. They either have or will have a state IRA, individual retirement account, so they're not quite matured yet. But I just gave you this number, 53.7 million don't have any retirement savings. There are only about 1 million people who have state IRA accounts. But the most important thing is not that it really hasn't filled the gap, these state plans, but they have two fatal flaws. One is the flaw is also a feature. People are using their state IRA plans for emergency savings. And that's good. They have a cushion. But don't call them state individual retirement accounts. I testified in the Finance Committee in the Senate. You weren't there, but there in the Senate last year, and I told the senators, do not call these plans retirement account plans anymore. Call them for what we know they are. They are emergency savings plans, or they're individual savings plans. So the only way that I would edit Ranya's excellent report is just scratch out retirement, because they're used for savings, they're universal savings. The other problem with them is that there is no match. There's no way structurally to put in an employer match or even your own money. I mean, sorry, or philanthropy money or anybody else's money. It's only your own money. Now I'm going to tell you a story about a proposal I think is much better than our current system, and it's called the Retirement Security for All Americans Act. It's in Congress now, but I'll tell you the origin story of this bipartisan, bicameral legislation that's in Congress right now. And that story comes from a very unlikely friendship and partnership. I wrote a paper with Kevin Hassett, who is now in Trump's White House. He's his top economic advisor. And he's also a PhD economist. And we got together writing a paper about the thrift savings plan, which is the federal the pension plan for the federal employees. And we wrote the paper to see what happened when the federal government started to match the contributions of their low-income workers. And we found that there was a huge amount of participation into the plan, that federal match, the match from someplace else besides your own pocket, your left-hand pocket or your right-hand pocket, you need a different pocket in which to match, had a huge effect on their savings. Kevin and I were also motivated to write the paper because we knew that there was a retirement crisis coming. He knew, I knew, from different perspectives, that wealth was not shared equally in this society. I think his attention got raised with the Occupy movement and the Black Lives Matter movement, but a lot of wealthy people were very concerned about the inequality of wealth and the political instability that would cause. And I have been concerned about the distribution of retirement dignity for quite a while. But anyway, we got together and wrote this paper. This paper became the blueprint for this bipartisan act. And so now I want to tell you a bit about the Retirement Security Act. It starts with me not pushing the button, maybe that'll work. Okay, there it is. The recognition from anybody in Washington that taxpayers now spend a lot of money on the system. So it's like Chekhov, who writes plays and he puts a gun in the first act. All right, so this is the fact that there's lots of money out there is really important to realize when we talk about expansion and how to spend our money. The retirement, and it comes about sorry, I think it's batteries. Sorry, it's backwards. The Retirement Savings Act comes from recognizing the federal government is a major partner in people's retirement accounts, and that the system is a failure. So we spend a lot of money that is a failure, and so without our two political hats on, Kevin Hassett and I come together as economists and we worry about efficiency and effectiveness. And this isn't efficient and it's not effective. So here's our proposal. The RSAA would create a worker retirement fund in which people who do not have a plan at work would be automatically enrolled. I think it was at your Senate hearing that Michael Krebs told me that I couldn't use the word I was going to use, and it's not the C word, but it was the M word, mandatory. So I called for, and he said, no, 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 comrade, the word is not mandatory here in Congress, it's universal, hence the universal savings account. But this is universal. Right? Everybody who doesn't have an account will be universally put into an account with the Worker Retirement Fund. And they could withdraw, but if they withdraw, they won't get the 1% match. So there's no reason. That's about as mandate or compulsory as you can get. You can take money off the table. So it's about as close as we could get in Washington to put people into the plan. And if you save 1%, the government will give you 1%, so you would have saved 2%, all the way up to 5%. Now, to qualify for the government match, you have to make earnings below like $70,000, which is the median earning. So it's quite generous. And it also recognizes that without a match, you don't get people continually saving into the plan. And it also has the aspect of what Jeff Brown said would be a perfect plan, is that the government match cannot be withdrawn before retirement. So that life happens to people and they do need savings, but this would be sticky. And the only way you can accumulate is if you're sticky. The other part of the plan is, well, it's progressive, and it's also invested in a way that gets you near an efficient frontier, and that it's invested the way that the TSP plan are, the federal government system is planned, and that is that people will have a choice among investment opportunities, but the choices are very well curated, and they're really nudged into a portfolio that will give them a steady stream of returns. I want to tell you that it solves many of the problems that we already are facing in the system. It helps people accumulate. It helps them invest well. And the system also has a way in the law to divest of, to deaccumulate the money so that it lasts the rest of your life. And it will be run by a board, much like the TSP board is run. And therefore, I do expect that there will be an annuity option built into the plan, or at least the government match will be annuitized. You might be wondering now if this plan has any kind of legs. And it is supported by a Republican and a Democrat in the Senate, Senator John Hickenlooper from Colorado, a neighbor, and Tom Tillis, a Republican who is retiring this year. On the Democrat side, there's about 35 Democrats that support the bill. But up until now, it had been introduced in Congress since 2022. There had only been 1 or 2 Republicans that might come in if other Republicans came in. In the House, the same story. Lloyd Schmucker from Pennsylvania is a Republican sponsor, and Terry Sewell from Alabama is a Democratic sponsor. But again, she had a lot of other Democrats who would come on the bill, but Lloyd Schmucker had difficulty getting the Republicans. So it was kind of in the back row of main cabin class, kind of cruising along, but really not being moved forward in the national debate until February 24th. February 24th is the State of the Union address. And I knew it was coming because Kevin had called me a couple of days before as he was writing the State of the Union address. President Trump said, the stock market's going up. It's great for the people who have a 401k, but half the workforce doesn't have a 401k. And I'm going to use whatever I can with an executive order to get people into savings accounts that will be matched by a federal match. That was a Biden-era savers match, but nonetheless, the federal government's going to help people to get into the plan. And the next step is the RSAA, is congressional action. So now we vaulted into first class. This has real possibilities of passage, and that's why I wanted to tell you all about it. And we'll answer any questions that you might have about it. But I do want to say that in closing, and the famous economist John Kenneth Galbraith said that those are the two words that give hope to the audience. I will summarize the retirement policy problem in one sentence. The problem is that the United States does not have a retirement saving problem that's caused by flawed humans. It has a retirement system that is caused by a flawed, poorly designed system for the workers that we have. A well-designed system has to do three things: accumulate, invest, and deaccumulate. And we struggle on all three. We consistently, the United States gets a C+, C minus in international studies of pension funds, while Australia gets a B, Finland gets an A+, because they do all three and we don't. And I will end where I started. Remember Warren Marion, the 82-year-old who was still working? Retirement policy answers a very simple question. After decades of work, what do people deserve? If people work for 40, 45 years, produce output, pay taxes, raise families, and keep the economy going, then the normal result should be security in old age. It shouldn't be a scramble. It shouldn't be a crowdfunding page. It shouldn't be beseeching employers to hire you. It's a part of our modern market economy. So the technical language for what we need is we need consumption smoothing, we need longevity insurance, we need efficient risk pooling. But the social and moral language is much simpler. After a lifetime of work, which is my social point, and being a human being, which is my moral point, people should have a dignified old age. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Teresa. We will take, we have actually a good amount of time to take questions. Please text them to the Google Voice number that's at your table. And then I'll get them here to Teresa.
Oh, those are folks that are watching and at the
yeah. So it's easier to curate questions if we
and also people can hear them. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
One question I'm going to get, I know, is how much will this cost?
Yeah. Well, let's start with this question.
Yeah, okay,
and I also
right.
possibly have a couple of questions
Okay.
while people are texting, because I know this was different than the panel setup, so just giving people a minute to send their questions. But
Okay.
go ahead.
Oh, okay, with my, okay,
How much?
the question,
How much?
how much will it cost? Well, it seems like giving a match, at least 1% and even more, to 50 million people would cost a lot. But remember, these are low-income people. So 1% of their poverty wage is really not a lot of money. So it's $40 billion. And even as somebody said at a conference I was at, even in a post-math economy or a post-math budget, $40 billion is still a holdup in Congress. We don't, the fact that it scores anything is giving pause. But it turns out that if you let the system run its course, it saves a lot of money for cities that have to deal with the poor elders in their communities, with states that have to provide supplemental Medicaid and other kinds of support. Many advocates are in the room for those kinds of support. It saves families a huge amount of money when a 50-year-old worker doesn't have to fund for her child's education and her mother's health care. So that $40 billion spent to help people save for their own retirement is, unlike a lot of places in the federal budget, really efficient and effective. So there is a price tag, and that has been holding up. But we expect in the next a couple of months, depending how things are going, for Congress to perhaps pass something. Maybe it will be in reconciliation, maybe it'll be in a lame duck Congress. During the State of the Union address, when President Trump talked about half of the workforce on having a 401k, the cameras panned to Senator Elizabeth Warren. And she woke up from whatever meditation she was in and almost clapped. And then I think she caught herself. Oh, no, I don't clap. But I had been talking to her over the past years about half the people not having 401ks. So I thought that was a real bipartisan moment, or what people call a horseshoe moment, when the far right, who's a bold but also a populist, says he cares about working people, and the left, the social democratic left, who cares about the welfare of all people, I put you in that category, Senator Harkin, come together. They're not touching, but it is a lot closer together than the kind of centrist and incremental retirement reform that we've been having since USA accounts failed.
Just a very quick follow-up question, and you touched a little bit on this, Teresa, but do you think that there is a very clear timeline of when this can pass?
Yeah.
And as a bigger really question to this is this an alternative to Social Security reform, or is this a complement?
Yes, thank you. Those aren't quick answers.
Yes, they're not.
Yeah. The first question is pretty quick. Either reconciliation, which is probably you need a PhD in public policy to understand what that process is, the way the budget gets passed in Congress, but it's another way that Congress can pass a budget. Remember, it's $40 billion. But it also could happen in a lame duck session when bold policies tend to come through. But we at least have a platform of support from the Republicans now that Trump has given them permission to care about the retirement crisis. So that's an easy answer within the next 2 years. The other answer about retirement security. So I know I've been staring at this poster, so I know what it looks like. There's a piggy bank with a green shoot coming out of it. And the words next to it is retirement security. But none of us are fooled that retirement security comes from people's own piggy bank. That's a layer of retirement security. If I were to redesign this logo, it would be embedded in a pyramid where the bottom is Social Security. The supplement to that is what we can accumulate with our employer plans and our own plans. It's a lot like the food pyramid, where you have your vegetables and your grains at the bottom. On top of that is your dairy and meat, and on top of that is your whiskey and chocolates, right? It's not a three-pillar, it's a base. And without that base of support with Social Security, that's why that last panel was so vital. All of these plans do not provide retirement security. So this is absolutely not a supplement. But let me answer also a question that John Podesta asked me during the Hillary Clinton campaign for president when she was his top advisor. He asked me, Teresa, why don't we just have a bigger Social Security system? This is really, I think his eyes were rolling. It's just so complicated. He just says, let's do things that are bold and simple and effective. And I told him that some countries have tried to provide dignified retirement just on a pay-as-you-go system, where a group of workers pay for the pensions of their elders. And it works when you have a lot of workers and a small amount of elders, or the workers are working in a vibrant, full employment economy. But if the demographics and the economy shifts, that pay-as-you-go system gets very fragile and expensive. And so Spain, Portugal, Greece, Italy are countries that tried to do this just based on their own Social Security system, and every time they failed. So I'm coming down on the systems that work, which is a hybrid system of partial pay-as-you-go, that's your social insurance system, and partial advance funded, and that's what the RSAA attends to, and that's what we've been talking about today, besides our Social Security panel. I am very much aware that we do need to turn people's wealth not into just a stream of income, but a stream of secure housing and the right type of housing and a stream of long-term care insurance. So the pyramid for spending is a lot more than just money. We do actually need these other forms of well-being support. You can stay here, Vanya.
Well, no, I think that works okay. Actually, you answered a couple of the questions that came as follow-up, which is wonderful, Teresa. I think maybe to just wrap it up, and so one of the conversations, and this is going to come up in the next panel, and it's sort of a good segue, is, within the 401k system to sort of accommodate, maybe is one way to say it, right? We have allowed people to have emergency withdrawals, hardship withdrawals, to have all of these sort of access to the money as a piggy bank, as that piggy bank that's there also in the picture. And if we want to focus on maybe keeping that pot of money, right? How do we address this tension? Because that exists in the employer-sponsored plans, right?
Yeah, I have two answers, which are about two spheres. For all you employers or the advisors to employers, know that an employer can stop withdrawals from their 401k. It's part of your retirement design. There's a new pension plan in Washington State for home care workers. It's a multi-employer plan because home care workers go from multiple employers, and you cannot take money out of that plan. So it is just a design choice. But many employers go the other way. An emergency withdrawal could be a remodeled kitchen. I mean, you could put a granite counter, in the category of a hardship withdrawal. So employers can make the money a lot stickier. But one employer, I won't name the big employer, but you might have flown on this employer, said that they do everything they can for their employees. They provide an 8% match. It's kind of paternalistic owner of airplanes. And we really do restrict their withdrawal, but they withdraw from us. They work for us for about 8 or 9 years. They go someplace else, and we know that money's out the door. So there is no effective or efficient retirement system on this planet that allows people to take tax-favored money out of their retirement accounts before they retire. And that's why we get C minuses and D plus. So we have to make it sticky. The RSA, most of those contributions are sticky, and with the match, we feel that it'd be very, very sticky. And it's hard for people when they have other needs. I'll just tell you his name. I did help advise another presidential candidate, Peter Buttigieg, when he ran for president. And he's a smart kid. I've known him since his parents were colleagues of mine in Notre Dame, so I remember him in utero. That's why I call him a kid, right? But he's a smart man who intuited that in order to make this work, there had to be some part of the money that you could withdraw. And so he had built into his retirement security plan an emergency savings fund, which is exactly what these state plans can be. Okay, thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Teresa.